quarterly of 2024, which is crazy to say, but we zoomed through the year. So I'd like to thank you guys again for being here and those on Zoom. It's always great to have people just to do our little year-end review, have people listen and then be able to record it for those who couldn't be here today. All right. Okay. Cool. So as always for our Zoom housekeeping, those are for those who are online. Presentations will be recorded and uploaded onto our YouTube page, which I'll post on our social media. So you can always come back, reference numbers that you may not be able to write down or remember. And then just to have that as a tool to use for our 2025 year. And then those on Zoom, if you could just enter your questions in the chat box, I'll answer them at the end of the presentations when we have the allotted time. And then just use chat for technical questions. Just change the recipient to Amy K because that is who the Zoom is. No? All right, cool. Keep that up there. All right, so kind of what we're going to be doing today is we're going to talk a little bit about Partners Scott County Watershed, our mission, our board, and all of the wonderful people that make what we do happen. And then we're going to do our snapshot review, which is all 3 of our snapshots, all the data collected this year, and then some overall encompassing data. We'll talk about our success stories, things that went really, really well this year, and some things we got to accomplish, which is really exciting. And then plans for next year, because before you know it, it's going to be January, and then 2025 is already here. So I'll have Mike come up and then talk a little bit about partners and introduce himself.
All right. Thanks, Liv. Add my welcome to Liv's welcome. I'm Mike Poston. I currently serve as chair of Partners. I farm over by Walcott with my family. Want to thank you for taking the time to join us and learn about what Partners has been up to. For those of you who aren't familiar, our mission is to improve the stewardship of Scott County watersheds, basically, and we do that through education, technical guidance, and volunteer opportunities. So here is our board. You're going to probably see a few familiar faces in the room here. We've got quite a few of them joining us today. But we rely on the board who come from all different walks of life all over the county to provide guidance and direction for partners and to kind of set strategic goals and decide, what kind of activities we're going to get involved in. Because as you might imagine, there's almost an unlimited number of things that could be done for water quality. And so one of the challenges we have is figuring out what to focus on and what we think that we can have an impact on as we go through that. So appreciate the efforts of the board to help provide that guidance. The board had a chance to go check out the Living Land and Waters floating classroom this year and have a board meeting there where we did some more planning for the year. Great resource that we have, when it's docked here in the area. I encourage you, if you have not had the chance to check that out the next time that it's docked, to get down there and take a look at it. It's really neat how they've incorporated some of the various trash and stuff like that have been collected over the years into the decor and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. All right, so with that, I'm going to get out of the way and let Steve come up here and talk about some of the interesting results that we've gotten from the snapshots and how this year relates to previous years since we've been doing this for quite a while. So take it away, Steve.
Well, thanks, Mike. I'm Steve Gustafson. I'm vice chair of Partners County Watersheds. I'm an environmental geologist, my day job. Am I doing something wrong, Liv? Did I just press? Duh. So snapshot background. Basically, a snapshot is we're taking a snapshot in time of the water quality on a certain day. We do that 3 times a year, May and July and October. And it's going to be going around since around 2003, so quite a long time. There's about 240 sites that we have been done in Scott County. We're doing about 60 right now, just based on logistics and money, right? So, and there's other testing that's been done in the county by state and federal and other municipalities in the past. We include that in our database. Right now, we're analyzing for nitrate and nitrite, ammonia, phosphorus, chloride, pH, dissolved oxygen, air, water temperature, transparency, right? And then we can also do lab analyses on some of those same things like nitrate, nitrite, phosphorus, fecal DNA, and sometimes herbicides and pesticides. I want to thank you, the Davenport Water Pollution Control Plant. All this data is available on our website, which we'll talk about later. And there are some folks there in 2024 doing some sampling for us. We use volunteers a lot. I keep on pressing the wrong thing. So as of Sunday, we have 32,033 different individual records in our database. That means like, you know, there's 22,027 E. coli tests, 23 herbicide pesticide suites, which when I say a suite, it means when I ask for herbicides, I get like 10 different chemicals, or pesticides, I get 15 different chemicals, you know, so 3,422 nitrate tests. So that's all counted. That I'm just grabbing different ones, just kind of show you how many of each we have. There's plenty more, obviously. The 2024 snapshot kind of show you like we did in May, July, and October. Had a total almost 100 volunteers. And it's kind of the different entities that were involved. Eastern Iowa Community College, the Scott County GIS Department, like talked about the waste and water treatment plant, sponsors the Davenport and environmental planning strategies. There's pictures of some folks that were doing it there. And I'm going to talk a little bit. This is just an example. I'll give it to you of how I'm going to pick some of the chemicals that we deal with and show you one, averages for 2024 in a rural and urban. And when I say county, I mean not country, county. It's all right. The whole wide, the county wide, occurring rural, urban, and suburban. And then the trends are basically what's the percentage of our sites that had an upward trend? What percentage of sites had a stable trend? What percentage of those sites had a downward trend? So for nitrate, which is a form of nitrogen, right? It's what you kind of hear about a lot in the news. In our rural sites, the average is about 5. Urban sites was a average of about 3. Countywide, average 4. Makes sense. The range that we had for 2024 was about 0 to 20 parts per million. Just to give you a kind of an ideal for what that means, the drinking water standard for nitrate is 10. Now, none of these sites that we're sampling anybody gets their drinking water out of, you know. So, and then below I have these database averages, kind of shows you 2022, 23, 24, how the whole entire database that I have for nitrate, what the average was. 3, it kind of popped up to 4 this year. So, and then you look at the trends, you can see countywide, about half the sites we had an upward trend. And it's kind of about the same. The rural sites, a little over half had an upward trend. The urban sites, it's kind of split between an upward and a stable trend. Just kind of give you an idea of these 60 sites. Now, these 60 sites that we have are obviously spread all over the county, small, medium-sized streams, urban, rural, suburban. Let's move on. Phosphorus, this is the other sister of the nutrients we talk about. You know, this one is a little bit different. You saw the other in the nitrate, we're talking about a range from 0 to 20. Well, now we're talking less than 2 parts per million. It doesn't take a whole lot of phosphorus to have an impact. Averages pretty darn close to each other, rural and urban, around 0.4 parts per million. That range you see is 0.1 to 1.71. 1.7 is pretty high. 0.1 is kind of about the lower threshold where our equipment can detect without labs. And the database averages, you can kind of see it's hovered around 0.4. I think 2022 should be 0.43, not 0.53. The overall average is about 0.46. So it's pretty stable, which you can look at the graph and you see 3 big 75, 75, 76. That's stable. Means pretty much the concentrations on the trends have stayed pretty stable for phosphorus. Not too many sites are going up, not too many sites are going down. Concentrations just kind of hanging out, whatever they are for that particular site, not really moving too much. It's stable. It doesn't mean it's great, just means it's stable. Some sites it's good, sometimes at some sites it's bad. Transparency. This is basically light penetration. How dirty is the water? How much sediment, total suspended solids is in the water? When you look at it, you'll say, man, that's dirty, you know, right? It's clear. You know, this is a way we can actually quantify that with the Secchi tubes or Secchi discs. So the higher number, the clearer it is. So when you look at the site averages, rural is 41, urban 39, countywide is about 39. The rural is a little bit clearer, not a whole lot. And your range this year was 5 to 65. So 65 means when we did the Secchi tube, you could see all the way to the bottom, you didn't have pouring water out. Right? Database averages you can see down below, pretty much hung around 40 in the past couple of years. And if you look countywide, a lot of the sites, about half the sites are pretty stable from whatever they were. Some sites are getting clearer. About a third of the sites are getting worse. In the rural sites, about half the sites are stable wherever they are. And about a third are getting a little bit higher, better. Interesting though, in the urban sites, about half the sites are getting worse. Their transparency is getting worse. Lots of different reasons for that, I'm sure. Chloride. This can have a bunch of different sources. Road salt, it could be some kind of septic. It's hard to narrow it down without a lot more information, but road salt probably is a good source. So you look at the concentrations for the averages. Rural is pretty low, makes sense. You don't really have a lot of road salt impacts out there. Urban is a little bit higher at 90 parts per million. Countywide is 57 when you average all in. The range is 31 to 281. Now, mind you, when we're taking these samples, May and July and October, this is not taking them in December. I've been out taking them in December and January, and I'm getting more like 3,000 parts per million, which makes sense. You know, you have melting and runoff and stuff. So this is some of these sites in the summer have concentrations of chloride over 200. You know, that means that there is a plume of chloride in that area that's feeding that stream, right? And that's just from years and years and years of road salt application in that area in an urban stream, in an urban area. As you can see, all the area, countywide, rural, and urban, the concentrations are increasing, but really the average is pretty low. The standards that we look for chloride, even acute, are pretty high, like 300 parts per million. So we have a ways to go where we'd have to have a consistent concentration of a site over 350 parts per million to reach a standard that would affect aquatic habitat. Now, that doesn't mean we don't watch it, because there are areas that can have that. And we also pay attention to chloride too, because if we see something that's out of the ordinary, it could be an indication that there's some kind of septic leak, something else is going on that's out. So it's good. It's a good indicator. Dissolved oxygen. This one, pretty easy. It's all 8, right? Which is good. So now range was 3 to 12, right? So dissolved oxygen, anything above 5 parts per million is considered adequate for aquatic wildlife, right? So we want 5. We want stable or increasing, right? So there were some sites that had 3, 4s. You know, if they have a consistent below 5, then I kind of get worried. There's a couple streams, couple sites around the county that are kind of in that borderline where I'm like, well, the dissolved oxygen seems to be low for some reason. You know, the urban areas look pretty much all a third, up, down, and stable. Rural areas are for the most part, pretty stable with their concentrations. You know, so, but it looks like overall about a third of the sites, their concentrations are going down, but not enough where I'm worried that we're going to get below that 5 parts per million consistently. There's one site, you know, that I don't know why. It could just be the typical conditions, you know, but I don't know if that's indicative of the whole stream. So I didn't go through all our parameters that I talked about. Those are kind of the big ones that kind of you look at. And so I kind of want to talk about everything with the snapshot. our nitrate and phosphorus, are the big nutrients we talk about. They're of concern not in just the rural areas, but suburban and urban too. You saw phosphorus, the concentrations are pretty much the same in the country as they are in urban areas, right? And it's all stable for the most part. I'd like it to be going down. Transparency, there's some undesirable trends and some streams of concern. pH I didn't talk about, but it's okay. That's another kind of thing where you want the range to be between 6 and 9. It's pretty much around 8 or 9. We're okay. There's another thing. If we see something out of the ordinary, we'll go back and check it. And usually it's usually human error. Dissolved oxygen we talked about just now, and chloride, it tending to be an urban suburban concern. There are some streams where we're getting close to an increasing concentration. We need to think about what's going on. Fecal pollution, didn't really talk about that. We've done some samples, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. We've done I don't know, Amy, feels like we've done like 150 samples probably over the past 10 years, which is it's expensive to do. Basically found that human and canine is pretty predominant in the urban setting, and human is one of the ones you find in the rural settings too. We haven't done a lot of rural sampling just because it just depends on funding, but we'll talk about more. But there is not enough data to be conclusive about what's going on in rural as far as fecal pollution, but there is some, right? Human and canine is found out in the rural areas too. So overall, we have undesirable trends in nutrients and transparency, probably some of it related to stream bank erosion. We're probably average for our Iowa. It's hard to tell. I don't have enough data about other areas. Our biggest concerns are probably nutrients and fecal bacteria. When you look at our landforms, our streams originate in Scott County. So we can't say it's coming from Clinton or coming from Muscatine. Water quality issues are kind of originated here, right? And so and also like small streams, they're important. We're not just Duck Creek or the Mississippi River. All these streams have an important in the ecological role. Augustana does some work with us, and they did a biological assessment of the small stream by Walmart, by I-74. And they found 12 native species on that small stream where I've seen people throw dirty diapers and whatever, out there. You would never know. They found a striped bass, juvenile striped bass. Whatever you think, and people look at that stream and like, oh, that's just a stream by a highway, it's just a ditch. Well, it had some ecological importance to those fish, so you never know what's there. I think this is you.
Thank you, Stephen Light. And then to go a little bit off of Snapshot, if you're not familiar with some of the equipment we use for that, I do have some on the back table that you can take a peek at, look at. If you ever have any questions or want to get involved more with that, you can always come up to me, let me know. And then to go with chloride too, Partners is also teaming up with the Isaac Walton League to distribute chloride strips for our winter months. So you can actually go out, test your own backyard stream or neighborhood creek or any body of water you want. So I have a little QR code you can scan with a sticker you can take with you that gives more information. If you would like to get involved, please let me know. Shoot me an email. I have my business card. You can DM us on Facebook, Instagram, find us on our website, anything, and I can get those like kits sent to you free of charge just through that wonderful partnership that we have. So if you are interested, please let me know. Again, it's a great way for us to get more data during the months that we don't test. And it also gets you guys out there understanding what's happening. So in the kit, it comes with the chloride strips, the how-to, and then where to upload your data. And then you can just email that to me as well. We also do it for nitrate. I always like to just kind of shout it out different times of year. Right now, who knows when winter is going to come. So salt could be going down any moment. So just being aware of that and then doing what you can do always is a fantastic way to get involved. All right, that was my little spiel on the rest of that. Cool. So we're going into our 2024 success stories, which I'm always so excited and honored to talk about. So this is our by the numbers. So we have, as always, done our educational programs, our community events and conferences. We were fortunate enough to go to 2 conferences this year as speakers. So that was really, really cool to get to be in front of those people, a big group of people talking about what we do, different projects, mostly Snapshot or MST, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then just partners in general. So really just getting our name out there. We saw, give or take, about 1,500 community members. Those numbers definitely fluctuate, but that's where we are, what we got calculated. And then we did 4 community cleanups this year, picking up 72 bags of trash, which is always incredible. And then we've had 233 volunteers this year, which is a number I'd love to see. That means I have 233 interactions with the community. That's personal, and they get to go out and do the work, and that's fantastic. So I'm always proud of that number. And then we have tested 188 sites this year, again, give or take, for Snapshot and some that I do personally. So that leads us to 1,179 total impact hours, which we increased from last year about 120. So that's an extra 120 hours we spent impacting the community. My goal every year is to get that number up and up, along with our volunteers and our community members we reached. So keep an eye on that number, because hopefully we'll see it go higher next year. So here's a little bit of our educational programs, our K through college. So we work with students from St. Ambrose, Bettendorf, Pleasant Valley, Rock Island, and North Scott this year. Some of them were on specific projects. So like North Scott, we worked with their FFA group on water quality testing. We finished up that program in spring. And then we had some students from Pleasant Valley come to our cleanup. That was their robotics team, so that was super cool to get to pair up with them and have them come out and do their own community service, but get to clean up trash. And then for St. Ambrose, we always go over and do the sustainability fair and work with some of the professors over there. And yeah, most of these other ones are just me going to the classroom, them coming to us, and getting to teach our water quality issues, litter pollution, which is that cute little picture of second graders making litter pollution posters. It's one of my favorite programs we do, because they get super, super into recycling and all that wonderful thing that you get to see a second grader do. So yeah, these are some of the things we got to do this year, and always will get to do more next year. So that's a little bit about our K through college programs. We got to do our floating classroom yet again with Living Lands and Waters, which was super awesome. We got to go out on the water, take some kids into the water, which was super cool. And then we had some games. So we saw about 34 students, and we spent about 10 hours actually educating them over a 2-day span. So this can kind of include some of the boat rides, some of not the boat ride, and then some of our games and activities. So me and Steve got to go out there with them, play muscle memory games and scavenger hunt, and watch their faces light up when they got to see a turtle, which was super cool, and a bunch of turtle eggs. So again, lots of things that some of our urban or like inner city kids don't really get to do. So that was super exciting, and very grateful that I get to do that. So again, I talked about volunteering. Here's some of our community cleanups and then the amount of bags we did at each cleanup. So we have done 2 in Davenport, 1 in Eldridge, and 1 in LeClaire. So again, my goal every year is to keep expanding that, trying to work with other cities and municipalities, maybe even cross the river, work with Rock Island. Even though we're Scott County, they still are just as important. So hopefully we'll get some more cleanups in and get to some other places. And then we also did invasive species removal at Sunderbrook, which was our last volunteer event. And we actually had a great turnout. We had 5 people signed up, and then 15 showed up. So never mad at that. Maybe not prepped, but never mad. And then lastly, we had our Robin Creek Workday, which is part of our United Way Day of Caring. And this was super cool because we had over 43 adults come out and spend 129 hours out by Robin Creek. That's invasive species removal, trash cleanups, trail maintenance, all of those great things. And we had groups from like John Deere, the Blood, I don't remember what it's called. It's not Mississippi Blood, Mississippi Valley. It's like Impact. Don't remember anymore. Is it Impact?
It's Impact.
Impact, cool. We had a group from them and then some stragglers. So that was awesome to be able to get in front of them and see how hard they can work, because we really did put them to work for 129 hours. So that was awesome. that's a little bit about some of our other numbers and things that we got to do, and then I'll have Steve come up and talk about some of our new biofilters.
Okay, so when I talked before about the fecal DNA impacts, and this is a project that City of Davenport and partner Scott County Watershed, I think we did start about 2019, 2020, where I had found someone online had taken the material that you use to build floating islands, and they basically made strips and put them in streams, and they found accidentally that they had a reduction in E. coli concentrations. They didn't know why. So I said, well, let's try it. I talked to Amy and we came up with a plan and thought Robin Creek would be a good way to kind of do a little test run on this. So basically, if you're not familiar with the floating island material, it's basically a plastic that's like a dense matrix. It's almost like a steel wool. There's just all kinds of little matrices in there, you know. It's kind of what I think probably is happening. These biofilms are just digesting this fecal bacteria and they're trapping sediment behind. Might be binding phosphorus, you know. So basically what we did, this is a pilot study to see if we put 3 of these filters in 2020, and then we've been going out and doing sampling in between April and October of these 4 years you see there for different water quality parameters and E. coli in total coliform, because E. coli is an indicator species of fecal bacteria, right? And so it's a cheaper way to determine what's going on as opposed to measuring for actual pathogens or trying to determine an indicator species like, is it a raccoon or is it human or canine? This is a lot of it cheaper. It doesn't tell you everything, but at least gives you an idea of what's going on. When you have a goal for E. coli, you know, if you can get that number down, you're basically saying, I'm getting everything else down, right? You're getting your other fecal concentrations down. So you can see in the kind of map in this top corner there where we had put where Robin Creek is and where we had put the filters. This is a big graph or a big table. It shows everything. Basically, Liv just got it updated because she's been doing the samples. And what it is, it shows a bunch of different numbers that are upstream of the filters, like pre-filter, and then downstream, post-filter, and the difference, and then a percent decrease. Sometimes there wasn't a decrease, sometimes there was. What I was just kind of looking at overall is average, what's my percent decrease over time? Around 30%. I'm happy with that. That's a decrease. And it's statistically significant. And over time, I'm seeing that because what the thing was, you notice with E. coli sampling, if you've ever seen it, is all over the place. It's ubiquitous. And as you can see, those concentrations vary like crazy. But if my upstream and my downstream are different, something is going on. Something's happening. I wish I could get some microbiologists to look at it, but it just, you know, it's not in the cards right now. But I'm happy with that. So it seems to be working, you know. This is something that the guys that I saw and that I talked to in Ohio, they weren't able to take it this far. They knew something was going on, but they were a soil and water conservation district that just put them in for more habitat, not knowing what else was going to happen. So Davenport decided to put some in Ghost Creek, and that was just done this July. And we are working with them and doing samples to start in August. So we've only got a couple samples. You can kind of see where the filters are put in right there. Oh, you did get the last, literally just got the samples in November. So you can see got about 15% decrease so far, but only 3 samples. I'm not going to say anything on that. It looks good. That's all I'm going to say. Right.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
so this year we had an abnormally dry year,
Mm-hmm.
but the last half of the year became wetter. How does that affect that device, that thing you're using?
So,
You know, when you have heavy water, I'm sure it does something, but it can't do.
so yeah, if it's kind of like a weir, right? So if you have low water, it's
weird.
okay. It's basically like a low head dam. How about that? It's backing up water behind it, and it's always going to back it up, but it's seeping through constantly, right? And if there's enough water, if there's too much water, it's just going to go over.
Right.
It can't handle it. So, you're never going to treat everything unless you have so many filters, right? So on low water, like drought kind of times, if you don't have a lot of water coming in, it's going to back up and it'll just seep through maybe at the rate of permeability. Once you get it past that, it's flowing over. And then you're just hoping that the next filter captures some and captures them. And then with the big rains, it's just, you just hope it doesn't blow it out, right? Those kind of things. So yeah, it's built for low flow conditions, essentially, and your low flow conditions could be 60% of your time, so good question though. Thank you, Jerry. So essentially this is the same thing. Live is sampling upstream of the first filter and downstream of the sixth filter. This seems promising. If we get 2 sites that work, we feel like we've found something and we can keep on doing it. There is some considerations though with habitat, because we don't want to block off. It is kind of like a dam, and you don't want to block off aquatic wildlife transference up and down the stream. So we have to take considerations of that and kind of notch some of these filters so fish and other wildlife can transfer through there. So that might affect the efficiency of these. We'll find out. Special projects is probably you again. I did not paint this.
All right, so last year we discussed that we had 4 of our watershed education murals complete. We were able to get a grant through the Iowa Economic Development called the Creative Catalyst Project Grant. So we were able to receive that and then utilize QC Arts to hire our final muralist. So we've worked and finished on all the murals now. So that means Marquette, Jungie, Northwest, and Garfield, now getting to include Eastern Avenue Park. So if you're ever on the Duck Creek bike path and you want to take a nice long walk, you can come and actually check out all 5 of these murals. This is the one that we just finished that we kind of went through and designed with the mural artist. And then he went out. Because of the grooved edge of the building, he had to use spray paint. So that's kind of why it is a little different from some of our other murals, because we had to have a different approach. So our goal for this was to have a almost underwater view of Duck Creek and the surrounding vegetation. And then these should all be native species to Duck Creek. So we really wanted to make it accurate and depict some of the great things that actually happen in the creek that you're walking next to. So again, it's just another way to interpret all the wonderful things that our watershed does. We finished it out in May, and then we're hoping in spring, when it gets nice and warm, we will do not like a ribbon cutting, but we will do a big press release posting all of the murals, a map, and then if you ever come check them out, there should be QR codes that'll take you to our page and get some more information out there on all of the finished murals. So yeah, that was a really awesome project to get done, and I'm very glad that we have all 5 out there for our community to see. Okay, cool. All right.
I think I should just stay out there.
It's truly, we all should just keep rotating.
Like the price is right. Okay. Back to microbial source tracking, MST, the fecal DNA we were talking about. We got a grant last year. Why can't I remember? From Prairie Rivers, right? They got a big grant to do a project in Iowa. They liked what we were doing. They gave us some money to do some microbial source tracking in our area, and then basically discuss our results and what we found and how the process went. And that's where we went last month to the Iowa Water Summit, Liv and I did, to talk about that, right? But I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we did here. We picked a Hickory Creek watershed, one of our watersheds of higher concern, right? And decided to do 3 sample events during a drought, kind of low to moderate flows, and then moderate flows when we knew manure applications were happening. You can see how many sites we sampled. We didn't sample a whole lot of sites during the drought because it was no water, right? I'm gonna see what your next. Oh, never mind. You just have this one.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So the data summary. And what I guess what I'm when I talk about MST is we're going out, we're grabbing a water sample, just like anything else. What you do is you send it to a lab and they're going to test for fecal markers of certain types of animals, right? So you can see avian, birds, cattle, human, swine, canine, ruminant. They're able to tell from the DNA that's in that water what produced whatever fecal bacteria is in there, right? It's not cheap, right? That's why we blew through $25,000 pretty quickly. But we think we might have found a cheaper method. We'll find out. So what I found pretty surprising was avian was found in 15 of the 27 samples in pretty dang high concentrations. So apparently we've got to kill all the birds in Scott County. But no, it's just something that we have not had. We had done waterfowl testing before and it didn't show up quite like this, but this is avian, maybe it's a little broader, you know. Only found one sample that had cattle in it, right? Human was found in about a third of the samples. Duck Creek was our control sample. When I say even found at Duck Creek, we found human. Swine we found in a few. They were only during the manure application sites and kind of a moderate concentration. Canine we found in one, and that was in the Duck Creek sample. Ruminants, which can include deer, you know, and such, found in 7 samples, even in Duck Creek. So that's when I say, like, yes, we took quite a few samples, but still not enough to really say anything yes or no about what's going on in Hickory Creek. You need more data. The only thing I can say is for sure is yes, avian, I found something. Yes, sir, in the back.
Can you distinguish between canine and?
I don't know, but I thought that myself. Like
Because
how much is coyotes? Yeah.
the coyotes run the creeks.
Yep.
That's what they do.
Yep. Because I don't see a lot of loose dogs, you know, out there. But or coyotes was the first thing that came up to me, right? In rural areas. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they go. That's where they.
Yep. So that's where they're hiding.
Yep.
Yep. But I didn't even really see that much anyway. So, but yeah, that'd be a good question. I don't know if they get that much into the
I don't even.
weeds, but it's gone such leaps and bounds that maybe we can. One thing I did hear that you can start doing raccoon. I think that would be interesting to find out. I'm sure that'll show up everywhere. Right. Mike, are you doing this one or? Sorry, you have to get up.
Give me a break.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stand.
Right. So this time last year, we mentioned this, and the wheels of the USDA turn very slowly. So we can update you though. This was a grant that we, in collaboration with Ducks Unlimited and Iowa State University, applied for and received from the USDA. It's basically an extension of what NRCS is already doing, but USDA is trying other approaches in conjunction with what they're doing at NRCS to just try to accelerate the pace of conservation practices being adopted in agricultural areas. And so this is specific to Scott County. So this funding is just for in the borders of Scott County. And the goal is to accelerate the implementation of many, many different conservation practices. And there's a few listed up here, but there's many more even beyond this that are qualified as part of this program. And so Ducks has just recently completed their contract negotiations with the USDA. And so now we're working with Ducks to kind of get all the details ironed out. But at this point, we're anticipating that we'll start taking signups from folks who are interested in the first quarter of 2025. And so we definitely want people to start spreading the word. If you are a landowner or if you know landowners who might be interested in implementing some new practices, It's never too early to start reaching out to us. We'll put you on the list and we'll make sure we touch base with you when we're ready to roll. But our plan is to kind of spread this information as wide as possible so that anybody who's interested can participate. But at the same time, we're also working with some folks at Iowa State University to actually identify areas in Scott County that would be suitable for some of these conservation practices. And then we're going to actually proactively contact some landowners as well and say, hey, would you be interested in doing some of these practices? So we're kind of taking a multi-pronged approach there. Yeah.
Is all this going through partners or with NRCS or?
Great question. So the way this is going to be organized is Ducks Unlimited is going to be doing most of the administrative work. So they will actually be awarding the contracts and drawing that up. Partners is kind of, we're going to be the kind of public facing part of this. So we're going to be interacting with the public, getting people to sign up and stuff like that. And then Ducks will actually be, following up with technical guidance and then actually providing the funds for that. So that it allows us, the goal is to be a little more flexible and a little more nimble than NRCS because they're already swamped with what they're doing. And so this is a way we can kind of work in parallel with them.
This sounds monumental, $5 million. Is that spread over a number of years or?
Yep.
Does it have to be spent this year? Or?
No, thank goodness it doesn't. It's going to be spread over a 5-year period. And so, yeah, we're hoping that this will kind of be a snowball effect, right? And we'll get some people to sign up and do it and hopefully have a good experience. And then they'll tell their friends and then they'll tell their friends. And by the time year 5 rolls around, hopefully we'll just be up to our ears and people doing stuff. But yeah, you're exactly right. This is a huge opportunity for Scott County to receive this funding specifically for our county. And there's a huge potential there to really accelerate the implementation of new conservation practices. We're kind of modeling our approach on the batch and build process that's been utilized in a few other counties in Iowa that have been designated by the state of Iowa as high priority watershed. But now we're able to we've designated ourselves a high priority watershed, right? And so we're able to kind of do similar things here where we can sign up a bunch of people at once and kind of line up contractors for them. And the idea is to minimize the amount of hoops that landowners have to jump through in order to do this. So we're going to try to make it as painless as possible.
One last thing, does Ducks Unlimited have that big a footprint that they can administer? And...
Yep, absolutely. With all of our interactions with them over the last year, one thing I've come to learn is Ducks Unlimited is putting a lot of resources into ag conservation projects in many parts of the country. Yes, they have done programs just like this in other states, and they have a lot of great experience, and we really are relying heavily on them to kind of help us navigate through this. And so they have been a tremendous partner with this, and we're really grateful that they decided to work with us on this, because this is not something, Partners of Scott County Watersheds does not have the horsepower to do something like this. And so we're definitely leaning on Ducks here, and it's very impressive, the commitment that they've made internally from a staff and resource perspective to doing projects like this and other similar types of projects around the country. So yeah, so we're super excited about it. Things are definitely going to pick up pace here. We'll probably be having some kickoff meetings and things like that to help to continue to spread the word. So keep your eyes out for that, and be sure to pass that information along to folks that you think might have some interest in it. So back to Liv. We've come full circle one more time.
Right. So as anticipated, these are our plans for 2025. It does not limit to what's on here, but this is some things that we would like to focus on and to continue to work towards. So Always some save the dates for our conservation quarterlies, like the event we're at today, our snapshots, and all those anticipated events. We're going to continue to do our community outreach, speaking engagements, floating classroom, and K through 12 programs. It's definitely something that we're never going to stray away from. And then we're also partners with the QC Environmental Film Series this year. So again, just getting our name out there, continuing to work with different organizations to bring environmental education to the Quad Cities. And then workshops, as Mike said, we are going to do some kickoff, hopefully another conservation conversation. And then last year, or I guess this year, funny to say it's already last year, we didn't get to do our macros because we had to switch sites because flooding happened in July, which is fun. So hopefully we'll be able to do our macro invertebrate IDing, which will go along with our macros, something we didn't get to discuss this year. And then we've been working with the DNR on a bigger pond management workshop. So that will hopefully be in the works. And then we're going to do some more cleanups at Crow Creek. We just did a ribbon cutting there that kicked off just the opening of that. So we're going to continue to work there and hopefully set up some work days. We're going to continue working at Robin Creek. We have biofilters. And again, it's a place that we really like to work and focus on. And then every year we always do LeClaire and Silver Creek and then Davenport. But if you see a space in the community, I have a link on our website now through our community cleanup where you can go in and sign a Google form that'll go to me and I can see like this citizen has a concern in this area. I can drive by, see what that looks like, or we can have whatever folk in the area go and check it out. And then hopefully we can put a cleanup together for that. So we've done some that are just kind of random corners, or we've done some hot spots and actual spaces. So again, if you see a place, let us know. And then just our other activities, we're going to continue with site visits, watershed signage, and then hopefully if we have time at some point, it would be really great to do a partners open house where we get to ask more community members just to come in, learn about us, learn how to volunteer. But as you can see, our plate is very full, so we're really, really hoping we can get everything done in 2025. As always, I want to thank all of our community members, organizations, businesses, and members that make partners who we are. We have some board members even in here today that sit on our board that help us continue our mission. So not only is it an ode to them, but it's an ode to all of our community members that actually make partners run. So again, it's always great to see their names. If you would like to get involved and are not involved, please come find me. Please send me an email. Always down to meet, and we can continue to help our watersheds. All right, so again, thank you guys so much. Here's our website. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. That's where we post a lot of our cleanups, volunteer thank yous, events. A great place to just kind of keep up to date. But again, same with our website. And again, all of our house data information we talked about today can be found on that website. So it's just kind of a nice hub to just go to. So if you have any questions too from today that you can't think of right now, you can always shoot me an email. But yeah.
Are we expecting we're going to have to replace those filters?
I think they say that every 10 years, but it is a pilot project. So up in the air. That was a good question though. Anything else for the good of the cause before I close it on out? As always, you can shoot me an email if you want more data or the graphs and numbers that you saw today and you don't want to watch an hour-long video. Totally understand. You can come just send me an email. I can shoot you any information that you need. I can show you where to find it, how to share it, and all that good stuff. And again, thank you guys so much for coming and for those on Zoom.